I wanted to take today to kind of just review a little bit about the ERNI product portfolio and look for some potential applications. I thought I would take time just briefly to kind of show you guys how the ERNI portfolio kind of fits into what may already be on your mind with some of the other products within the industrial board signal portfolio. You guys are probably very familiar already with the AMP-MODU interconnect system, since it's been around for over 30 years, a variety of center lines and configurations that are available from both the board-to-board and the wire-to-board solutions. The Micromatch connector series similarly has a nice portfolio of products. It's a little bit smaller product family than the AMP-MODU, but again, it's got wire and board-to-board solutions. And you may ask yourself, well, kind of how does this all tie together? We started out with the bread and butter of the core of the AMP-MODU portfolio being this 2.54 millimeter centerline type of connector system. And they're seeing this growing need for miniaturization of products. TE has already kind of established the 2 millimeter and the 1.27 millimeter and even more recently the 1 millimeter with the AMP-MODU small centerline products. And on the roadmap for the future was the 0.8 millimeter AMP-MODU next generation. And with the acquisition of the ERNI portfolio, we really kind of helped to further enhance the portfolio that the TE brand has now with some products from the ERNI family. So we add some new products with the Maxi Bridge in the 2.54 millimeter space, wire to board solutions. In the 2 millimeter space, we add a wire to board connector solution with the iBridge and some power solutions with the microspeed power. And in the 1.27, we have a number of products that kind of mash well with what's existing within the TE portfolio. And as we get down to the 1 millimeter and the 0.8 millimeter, ERNI has a pretty robust family of connectors with the microspeed, microcon, and microstack to help tackle those smaller centerline activities that customers are trending towards. And so we're kind of following that board miniaturization trend. And one thing that, as Jan and I have been doing these presentations, the question that comes, well, okay, why do we pick ERNI in some applications versus a TE solution? And we thought maybe we'd put this little checklist together for you guys to understand, hey, maybe when is it a good time to go towards the ERNI solution, and when is it something we're going to stick with an AMP-MODU or Micromatch or another TE solution. So thinking about center lines, ERNI is really more focused on the smaller fine pitch connectors, so 2 millimeters and below, where you guys have a lot more strength in the broader pitch products with the existing TE portfolio. In the board-to-board applications where you need variable stack heights, ERNI has a much broader range of stack height availability, so that's something to consider if the customer needs flexibility in their stack height configurations in mezzanine. ERNI may be a good solution for you. If there is a need for shielding, ERNI does offer a shielded connector product in the microspeed family that can help tackle that application where you previously did not. Again, with high speed, we do have a number of connectors that are rated for 3 gigabit and above, and even some at 25 gigabit per second data rates, whereas the existing TE portfolio was geared for much lower speed applications. So that's another area where you would maybe want to turn to the ERNI solution. On the current rating, on our wire-to-board solutions, ERNI definitely offers some higher current rating products. On the board-to-board, it's a kind of a mixed bag. It just depends on the pin cross section. Sometimes you guys have the TE portfolio has a bigger current rating than the ERNI portfolio, and we have some specialty power connectors where you don't. So, power is definitely something where we'd want to talk with you guys. Blind mate capability on the board-to-board connectors, and even on some of the wire-to-board solutions. These different solutions for protecting the male contacts on the mated connector. Our ERNI solutions do have some of those features incorporated into the products, whereas the TE portfolio does not. And then misalignment tolerance. So we have a majority of the ERNI connectors have a misalignment tolerance built in to help with the angular and just overall design sloppiness that can happen with customer applications. We have some built-in generous misalignment tolerance that can help overcome those. And then lastly, board terminations. One of the big differences between the TE portfolio and the ERNI portfolio, ERNI is heavily invested in the SMT solutions, so where we have all the products providing a surface mount solution and limited through-hole capability, whereas the TE portfolio is much more robust and has combinations of through-hole reflow and surface mount connectors. So this is a kind of a checklist, something that you guys can think about as you're going about different applications. So with that being said, I'd like to talk a bit about some of the board-to-board solution that was in the ERNI portfolio, but I want to kind of touch on some of the really unique opportunities and the ones where we feel like there's going to be the most chance of finding some success with customers. And then we'll briefly talk about the wire-to-board solutions as well, and then try to summarize it. So going into it, first of all, with the SMC connector, this is our 1.27 millimeter solution, similar to like what you guys have in the AMP-MODU 5050 product line. It's a shrouded header system on a 1.27 millimeter pitch, dual row 1.27 millimeter pitch in both the X and Y direction, 12 pins up to 80 pins. Current per pin is 1.7 amps, so not a really high power connector, but it does have board to board and wire to board applications. And what I always think is nice about the SMC is the broad portfolio. If you look at this image on the bottom here, you can notice all the different configurations that are possible with this connector system. We can do stacking mezzanine applications. We can do card edge applications or end-to-end extender card type of applications. We can do wire to board, cable assembly solutions. We can do perpendicular applications. And then we have some unique board-to-board adapters. So those board-to-board adapters allow a customer to span very tall distances or tall components on their printed circuit boards. So we can go from 20 millimeters to 40 millimeters in like 2 millimeter increments there. So you're able to really span a very wide range of components on the printed circuit board. And in our standard product offering for these mezzanine applications with just single connectors mounted on each board, we can span between 8 and 20 millimeters. And there's a number of steps in between those ranges that we can hit depending on what the customer application is. So that design flexibility is very well received by our customers. It is ruggedized. It's a dual beam contact system, and we have LCP housing material, so that's really designed to work in critical environmental conditions. We have SMT anchoring, so these features on the sides of the connectors, these retention clips get soldered to the printed circuit board. Those help provide a very solid attachment to the printed circuit board, especially during those plugging and unplugging operations that these connectors may have to go in to help to minimize any insertion cycle failures. And this connector, with the right signal to ground pinout, can handle up to 3 gigabits per second data rate. So you can pass some decent speed signals to these connectors. And some of the things that I'd like to really kind of share with you guys are these success stories. We've seen this connector in a lot of applications, which we'll talk about shortly, but one of the success stories was in the industrial automation in the drives segment, where the customer had some critical CAN signals not operating at super high data rates, but they were critical signals that were under severe vibration and temperature conditions, and they needed a connector solution that was small enough to fit into their design envelope, but also be able to handle the severe vibration and temperature extremes that this product was exposed to. So with the SMC connector, with the surface mount performance, provide this ideal combination of size and the rugged environmental performance. So the dual beam contact was able to withstand the shock and vibration profiles that the customer had, and the fact that we used materials that were able to handle this wide temperature range from -55 to 125 degrees C. So we were able to pass their temperature extremes that this product was going into. When we talk about the target markets for this product, it is a very diverse product and can be used in a variety of applications, from automation controls, motion drives, all the way to datacom applications. It's really not limited to a certain industry. I want to kind of talk about quickly into a smaller form factor, into the Microcon connector series, which from the image here looks very similar, but went from 1.27 millimeter to 0.8 millimeter. So we've almost shrunk the connector in half. And so this is a very small fine pitch connector system. Again, it's a dual row connector system, 12 pins up to 100 pins. We're able to still achieve a very robust current per pin of about a little over 2 amps. It does also offer board-to-board and wire-to-board solutions. So when using there's a solid core ribbon cable that can be attached to this product family. And some of the key features of this connector is the miniaturization. So as we kind of continue to shrink down to this 0.8 millimeter, this SMT design is still, allows the customer to use even less space on their printed circuit board. But even in that small pitch of a connector, we still incorporated this ruggedized dual beam contact system. So a lot of connectors in this 0.8 millimeter space use a single-sided blade on beam connection, where we continue to use this dual beam contact system. And in this connector system, we have quite a bit of design flexibility. Again, we've got these stack heights and these mezzanine applications from 5 to 20 millimeter, but they're in 1 millimeter increments, so we can span a very wide range of solutions for the customer. We did take input from the customers who are using our SMC and added some of the features like blind mate. So this blind mate capability are these advanced plastic bosses on the female connector and corresponding recesses in the male connector that help pre-align the connector prior to mating. And it really helps to protect these signal pins inside the male connector body. As this pitch of connector gets smaller and smaller, these pins become more and more fragile and easier to bend. Making sure everything's in proper alignment before mating is a necessity. We have continued to use these SMT anchoring features so to help really secure the connector to the printed circuit board and take the mating forces off of the signal pins. So example of one of the success stories for the Microcon sensor applications. This was chosen as a connector and a turbine for monitoring the rotations of this turbine to protect against overspeed, overpressure, and overheating applications, to make sure if there was something that happens that they can quickly stop the turbine. And really, because of the small form factor and the fact that we have all these different configurations of the connectors and the blind mating, made this a really good solution for the customer. And they were using this as a multi-drop system, so there was multiples of these connectors over a length of the system, and this was a great choice for the customer to meet those needs. Additional target markets, like we saw with the SMC, it's pretty versatile. What we excluded from this is the automotive applications and some of the telecom, datacom type of applications, but more of the industrial controls, semiconductor equipment, sensors, and robotics are key areas. Next in the portfolio that we want to talk about was the microspeed. The microspeed is the shielded connector solution, board-to-board connector solution that ERNI has. It's one of our highest rated connectors in terms of data rate at 25 gigabit per second, and that's really due to the fact that the shielding provides a great environment for differential signaling. We can get 100 ohm differential impedance on the signal contacts with very low crosstalk, which allows us to push those data rates up into the 25 gigabit per second rate. It is a 1 millimeter pitch connector system. Comes in a couple different configurations. The dual row connector is 26, 32, 44, and 50 pin solutions. We do have a 3-row version that is 75 pins, and then there's some specialty 7-row versions with 91 and 133 pins. Similar to what we saw with the SMC connector system, it is a very broad portfolio. So we have a large number of configurations that are available, whether it's those right angles and verticals, and being able to mix and match those connectors to do mezzanine applications or do traditional backplane applications or orthogonal applications. We can do a lot of different configurations with this connector system. It has a wide range of stack heights, so we can do 5 millimeters up to 20 millimeters in those 1 millimeter increments. We have blind mate capability, so those advanced features on the female connector that help to guide the connector into place prior to mating. And again, the shielding, so those shields provide not only this electrical performance impact, but have a mechanical stability, add some robustness to make sure everything is affixed to the printed circuit board and provide some robustness to the connector. From the success stories with this product family, this is really chosen by a number of PLC vendors where we're using the microspeed connector as one of the bus signaling connector system. In this particular application, they were looking for a solution that had a scalable central module that can handle some very critical signals that weren't necessarily high speed, but were critical in that they affected by noise very strongly. So needed to have a shielded connector system that could guarantee they would not be influenced by external noise from the equipment that would be around where this product was located, and needed to be able to transmit these critical signals over as many as 32 different modules. So be expandable to handle, be able to still work over long distances of signal path, so needed to have very good signal integrity. So this connector system was chosen because of its excellent shielding performance. We had to do some specific testing to pass this design requirement for signals over 32 modules of length, and the fact that we had this blind mating misalignment tolerance really set us apart from some of the competitive products that were out there. Microspeed really is geared towards those automation controls and drives, some of the semiconductor equipment and the datacom applications, anywhere where the signals have critical nature to them and where they need shielding. This is a great solution. Okay, so I've gone through quite a lot here in the first 30 minutes, but I want to switch from the signal connectors to a power connector here within the microspeed power module. We have provided a solution now that is complementary to the microspeed signal connector that allows up to 18 amps per contact in a very small form factor. So in this little connector here that you see with the 5 pins, we can handle close to 100 amps in that connector with all the signals operating and the shields carrying power as well. So it's a 2 millimeter pitch connector. It only comes in 5 pins in its current configuration, but each one of those pins is 18 amps. It comes in all those different configurations like the signal connector has. So we have right angles and verticals in both the males and females, which allows you to do a lot of different, makes it a much modular approach. You can have a number of solutions for the customer, and whether it's mezzanine or coplanar or right angle. And also in the stack heights are similar to the signal connector, and so they're 5 millimeters to 20 millimeters in 1 millimeter increments. So we have that design flexibility there. The shielding, we have the shielding like the signal connector, provides that both a noise suppression and isolation, but also provides mechanical stability. Like the signal connector, we have versions with blind mate capability on it, so they have these advanced features to help protect the header pins and do some advanced guidance of the connector. And like the signal contact, it has a multi-point contact system, which really helps provide that stability in the connector system, and then this high degree of temperature range that this product can handle. One of these days, we'll take the Dematic solution. We'll have that as a success story here, but this connector has been used a number of applications. This one here shown is for a piece of semiconductor equipment, but it was used for a piece of lithography equipment for extreme ultraviolet lithography, and that helps to generate the most precise features, the smallest features in IC semiconductor production. So the customer was looking for a solution that was flexible, can handle a variety of different configurations and different board-to-board heights depending on what the end customer needed for their customize configurations of paddle boards that would be inserted into this. Because of the small size and density of power, we were able to win this application, and the ability to also handle a variety of stack heights helped put us in a competitive advantage for this customer. So the type of applications for this type of power module, again, the typical industrial automation type of applications. We do also see some of the warehouse automations, the semiconductor equipment, and then also the battery storage or the EV infrastructure. Moving on from the board-to-board solutions, I want to talk briefly about the wire-to-board solutions that ERNI brings to the table, and use the term bridge products to define these wire-to-board solutions. So you'll see this, names of the products all seem to end with bridge. So we have the Maxi Bridge product, which is our 2.54 millimeter pitch wire-to-board solution. Got a single row and a dual row solution. So in the single row, we have 2 pins, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 8 pins. And then in the dual row, we have 10 and 20 pins. The connector itself is rated to handle 12 amps per contact. And, we can use stranded wire from 20 to 26 gauge. It's not a high-speed connector, so we don't really rate it for any special signal applications. One of the key selling features that we have with these bridge products is the low profile nature of them. So these right angle configurations that we see here, the board mounted versions, the height off the board is very low. So in the Maxi Bridge, it sits only a little over 5 millimeters off the surface of the board. It's got side latching, which allows for very slimline, low profile designs that the customer may need. Additionally, with this wire-to-board family of Maxi Bridge products, we have color and mechanical coating. So we have 4 different color variations available in each one of the pin counts, and not only they're color coded, they're mechanically coated as well. So the blue one can't plug into the black one, and that provides a great deal of security for the customer. Let's say they have the blue one holds all the 10 volt signals, and the black one has all of the 3.3 volt signals. They can make sure they don't plug in the wrong connector into the wrong location and cause some damage to their system. Connector has it's a crimp contact design, so crimp contact to wire, dual beam crimp contact, made initially for automotive applications, so it has a very high vibration and temperature resistance to meet LV 214 and US car, so these specialized testing requirements for the automotive space, which also means it works very well in the industrial space. One of the key features for automotive customers is this terminal position assurance, but it should be important for any customer, is to make sure that the contact is in place and locked in securely into the female housing or the cable harness housing prior to mating, so that the contact doesn't accidentally back out of the plug. So we've incorporated this terminal position assurance. So it's a secondary 2-piece locking system that ensures that we've got that contact fully seated during the assembly process. So prior to mating, this really ensures you've got the contact precisely located. Like we saw on the some of the board mounted connectors, we use this SMT anchoring system on the board mounted connector. So it's really important when you're plugging cables into a connector, board mounted connector, that you have a very good way of taking those plugging and unplugging forces and displacing them to rigid, strong features on the connector. And that's what we did with our anchoring these solder clips. The target markets, we have automotive is a big one for this product, but additionally in the lighting space, in the industrial robotics, some of the AGV stuff that you would see in warehouse equipment, and in the battery storage and EV infrastructure. The little brother to the Maxi Bridge is the Mini Bridge. It's a 1.27 millimeter pitch solution, single row connector from 2 pins up to 12 pins. In a very small form factor, we can do a very high current density, so the contacts themselves are rated up to 8.7 amps. It can handle ribbon cable or discrete wire. depending on what the customer is looking for. Again, that low height profile nature of this connector system makes this an attractive solution for customers who have limited area to place these connectors. So the mini bridge has less than 4 millimeters of that Z height. We offer this connector in a Koshiri secure version. So Koshiri is a fancy word to say scoop proofing, or allows you to protect those male signal contacts. So if the connector is mated at an odd angle, you can't potentially stub the signal contacts and cause them to bend. So this Koshiri feature really protects those male contacts and helps align the contacts, aligns the connectors during the mating process. Uses, again, that dual beam contact, but it is a IDC connection system. So the Maxi Bridge was a crib contact. The mini bridge is an insulation displacement connector system. Again, it was developed for use initially in automotive environments, so it has a high degree of vibration and temperature resistance, which makes it also very well suited for a majority of the industrial applications that we see. One of the other kind of cool and key features is the design modularity that we put into this connector. We have right angles and vertical headers for the boards, and we also have right angle and straight cable outlets on the plug side. So that allows customers to do a bunch of different configurations, like you can see in this picture on the bottom left, where you have right angle cable harnesses and you've got vertical cable harnesses. A wide degree of flexibility for the customer. We also have various locking features on the connector. We have versions that are in red, like you see here, that are called our positive lock. They're a very secured connection system. Once you've plugged them together, you have to press on the little red tab in the male window that you see in this bottom left. You have to push on that feature to disengage the lock. And then we have versions that have more of a friction lock that can be pulled apart with just a little bit of force. So depending on what the customer application requires, we can find a good solution for them. Applications, similar to what we saw with the Maxi Bridge, we've got some lighting applications, we've got the traditional automotive applications, but industrial robotics, battery systems, and warehouse automations. Need for a tin-based connector solution, which kind of drove ERNI to develop our iBridge Ultra product line, which is on a 2 millimeter pitch. So it's similar to the Maxi Bridge. It's a crimp contact design, single row with side latching to it, and 2 pins up to 12 pins. But we went to an economical plating design and used some lower cost plastics to help us target some more of the more commercial type of applications that were out there. So some of the higher volume, say tail light or white goods type of applications, needed a lower cost solution. Still kept a lot of the same type of features that we would see within the Maxi Bridge product family. Very low profile, again 4.3 millimeters. So it's very slim. It is a crimp contact design for 22 to 24 gauge, with use in the harsh automotive environments that it was initially designed for. It has very good robustness with the vibration and the temperature resistance, even though it's in a tin solution. Modularity of the design. So like we would see with the Maxi Bridge, we have a couple different versions of the surface mount male connector in both vertical and right angle, and we also offer through-hole reflow versions of the board-mounted connectors as well, to give some diversity to the applications for those customers who may be doing wave soldering, manual soldering applications. Similar market space that we saw with the other 2 products in this bridge series. Okay, so last thing I want to share, I didn't talk about all the products that are on this left-hand side over here, but just really kind of want to bring this all back together, that, the acquisition of the ERNI portfolio really kind of brings some new tools and new opportunities for growth. On the board-to-board side, we have some fine pitch signal connectors like our SMC, Microcon, and Microstack in that, 1.27 millimeter and below. We have some miniaturized power connectors We talked about the microspeed power, but we also have this power hybrid connector that's in our portfolio. On the high performance signal side, we have our microspeed, our ERMAT ZD connector, and our DIN 41612 and the ERMAT 2mm hard metric connectors. Those all start to become part of the D&D portfolio, and then we'll start to slowly migrate those products out of the ERNI portfolio and start crossing those over to the TE solutions where applicable. So some of those legacy products will start to go away from ERNI and get into the TE brand. But we do offer these other gaps or fillers in the gaps of the TE portfolio with the ERNI products. On the wire to board side, we have these IDC connector solutions like our mini bridge and micro bridge, along with these small little IDC terminals, these single wire to board connections. So those are some of our IDC solutions that we bring to the table. And lastly, we have crimp wire to board solutions like our Maxi Bridge, iBridge Ultra, and the power elements, which are those power lugs that we see at the left-hand side. So I think what the ERNI portfolio does is kind of help strengthen what you already have, and I'm looking forward to see how we can engage on specific application.